The summons landed on my doorstep like a physical blow. My name, Victoria, was printed starkly on the envelope, followed by the cold, hard legal jargon that spelled out the unthinkable. My own parents were suing me. The accusation hung in the air, thick and suffocating, that the house I had bled for, the house I had envisioned as my sanctuary, rightfully belonged to my sister. A lifetime of striving, of scrimping and saving every single penny, now threatened to crumble into dust because of a twisted sense of entitlement and a blatant disregard for my sacrifices. They believed that my happiness, my security, was theirs to give, or, in this case, to take away. If you've ever felt betrayed by your own family, subscribe now to hear how Victoria turns the tables on her scheming relatives and reclaims what is rightfully hers. The sting of betrayal cut deeper than any legal document ever could. Growing up, my sister Emily was always the golden child. She was effortlessly charming, naturally gifted, and perpetually indulged. I, on the other hand, was the quiet one, the diligent one, the one who always had to work twice as hard to earn half the recognition. While Emily flitted from one fleeting passion to another, racking up debts and disappointments, I quietly built a life of stability and responsibility. For 6 long years, I poured every spare moment, every extra dollar, into saving for a home. I sacrificed vacations, nights out, and even basic comforts, all with the singular goal of owning a place I could call my own. Finally, that dream became a reality. I found a small but charming house on the outskirts of town, a fixer-upper with good bones and endless potential. It wasn't much, but it was mine. I poured my heart and soul into renovating it, transforming it from a dilapidated shell into a cozy haven. I reveled in the satisfaction of knowing that I had achieved this on my own through sheer grit and determination. My parents feigned happiness, showering me with hollow congratulations. They visited often during the renovation process, oohing and awing over the progress, subtly planting seeds of doubt in my mind. "Are you sure you can handle all this on your own, Victoria?" my mother would ask, her voice laced with a thinly veiled condescension. "It's a lot of responsibility for a single woman." My father would chime in, "Maybe you should consider letting Emily move in with you. She could use a stable environment." I brushed off their suggestions, chalking it up to their overbearing nature. I couldn't have been more wrong. The truth was far more sinister. They had been plotting all along. The person I trusted most was one of them. The lawsuit was a declaration of war, a cold-blooded attempt to dismantle everything I had built. Sleep became a luxury I could no longer afford. Night after night, I lay awake, the legal documents swimming before my eyes, the accusations echoing in my ears. My sanctuary, the house that was supposed to be my refuge, now felt like a prison. Every creak of the floorboards, every rustle of the leaves outside my window, sounded like the approaching footsteps of my enemies. I tried to reason with them, to understand the twisted logic that fueled their actions. I called my mother, my voice trembling with a mixture of anger and disbelief. "How could you do this to me?" I pleaded. "After everything I've sacrificed, how could you try to take away the one thing that's truly mine?" Her response was chillingly calm, devoid of any empathy or remorse. "Emily needs this house, Victoria. She deserves it more than you do. You're stable, you're responsible, you'll be fine. Emily needs a fresh start." My father remained equally unmoved, his voice a low, rumbling drone of disapproval. "You've always been selfish, Victoria, always thinking of yourself. It's time you put your sister's needs first." Their words were like a knife twisting in my gut. The parents who were supposed to love and support me unconditionally were now actively trying to destroy me. I hung up the phone, my hands shaking, tears streaming down my face. I felt utterly alone, betrayed by the very people who were supposed to be my protectors. I contacted a lawyer, a weary-looking woman named Sarah who seemed to have seen it all. She listened patiently as I recounted my story, her expression growing increasingly grim. "They have a weak case," she said, "but they're clearly determined to fight this. It's going to be a long, expensive battle." The thought of spending my hard-earned savings on legal fees filled me with dread. It felt like another injustice, another way for them to bleed me dry. But I refused to back down. This house was more than just bricks and mortar. It was a symbol of my independence, my resilience, my triumph over adversity. I would fight for it with every ounce of strength I possessed. The legal process dragged on for months,
each day filled with anxiety and uncertainty. I attended countless meetings with Sarah, poring over documents, strategizing our defense. The stress took its toll on my health. I lost weight, I developed dark circles under my eyes, and I was constantly on edge. My friends tried to offer support, but I found it difficult to talk about what was happening. I felt ashamed, humiliated that my own family was trying to destroy me. I started avoiding social gatherings, isolating myself in my house, the very place that was at the center of the conflict. One evening, as I was sifting through a mountain of legal papers, I stumbled upon a clause in my parents' will. It stated that Emily would receive the bulk of their estate, while I would be left with a pittance.
It was a clear indication of their favoritism, a lifelong pattern of unequal treatment that had finally culminated in this devastating lawsuit. The realization hit me like a physical blow. They had never truly valued me, never truly appreciated my efforts. I was just a means to an end, a backup plan in case Emily failed to live up to their expectations. A cold fury began to simmer within me, a burning desire for justice. I wouldn't let them win. I wouldn't let them take away everything I had worked for. I would fight back, not just for myself, but for all the times I had been overlooked, undervalued, and betrayed. The need for retribution consumed me. It was time to turn the tables. The days that followed were a blur of legal jargon, whispered phone calls, and the constant gnawing feeling of injustice. Sarah, my lawyer, fought tirelessly, but my parents were relentless. They seemed to have endless resources, a bottomless well of spite fueling their attack. The legal fees were mounting, slowly but surely draining my savings. I found myself cutting back on everything, sacrificing even the smallest luxuries just to stay afloat. The weight of it all was crushing me, suffocating me slowly. One particularly bleak afternoon, I received a call from Sarah. Her voice was grave. "Victoria," she said, "I'm afraid I have some bad news. The judge has ruled in favor of your parents. They've been granted temporary ownership of the house, pending a full investigation." Her words hit me like a physical blow, stealing the air from my lungs. I felt the world tilt beneath my feet, the ground dissolving beneath me. "No," I gasped, my voice barely a whisper. "That can't be. What about all the evidence? What about everything I've worked for?" Sarah sighed. "The judge felt that there were inconsistencies in your financial records. Your parents have accused you of hiding assets." It was a lie, a blatant fabrication, but it didn't matter. They had managed to manipulate the system, to twist the truth to their advantage. I felt a surge of anger, a white-hot rage that threatened to consume me. They were stealing my life, piece by piece, and there was nothing I could do to stop them. That night, I sat alone in my house, surrounded by boxes of legal documents, the silence broken only by the rhythmic ticking of the clock. The house felt cold and empty, devoid of the warmth and comfort it had once held. I wandered through the rooms, touching the walls, running my fingers over the familiar surfaces. Each room held a memory, a reminder of the love and effort I had poured into this place. Now it was all going to be taken away from me. I sank to the floor, burying my face in my hands, and wept. The tears flowed freely, a torrent of grief and despair. I felt broken, defeated, utterly alone. They had won. They had managed to destroy me, to strip me of everything I held dear. As the night wore on, the tears eventually subsided, replaced by a numb emptiness. I sat there for hours, staring into the darkness, my mind blank, my spirit crushed. The first hint of dawn crept through the windows, casting long gray shadows across the room. As I sat there, lost in my despair, I noticed something glinting on the floor. It was a small silver picture frame, one that I had knocked off the shelf in my fit of rage. I picked it up, my fingers tracing the outline of the glass. Inside was a picture of me and Emily, taken when we were children. We were standing in our backyard, smiling brightly, our arms wrapped around each other. A wave of sadness washed over me as I looked at the picture. There was a time when we were close, when we loved each other unconditionally. But that time was long gone, replaced by years of resentment and jealousy. As I stared at the picture, a flicker of something sparked within me. It wasn't hope, not exactly, but something akin to resolve. I realized that I couldn't let them win. I couldn't let them destroy me. I had come too far, sacrificed too much to simply give up. The pain they had inflicted on me was immense, but it had also awakened something within me, a steely determination to fight back. I would not be a victim. I would not let them define me. I would find a way to expose their lies, to reclaim what was rightfully mine, and to make them pay for what they had done. A cold, hard resolve settled over me. The tears were gone, replaced by a burning desire for retribution. I stood up, my legs shaky but my spirit firm. It was time to stop feeling sorry for myself and start planning my revenge. I smiled, a chilling, mirthless smile. They thought they had broken me, but they were wrong. They had only made me stronger. The game was far from over. In fact, it was just beginning. I would meticulously gather every piece of evidence, uncover every hidden secret, and expose their treachery to the world. They had underestimated me for far too long. Now they would learn the true cost of their betrayal. My weakness had been my trust. My strength would be their fear. They believed they were untouchable. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. I smiled. I played their game, but I was recording everything. The first step was understanding their strategy, the precise legal maneuvers they had used to gain the upper hand. I spent hours at the local law library, poring over legal texts, researching property law, and familiarizing myself with the intricacies of estate planning. I discovered that their case hinged on a series of carefully constructed lies, designed to paint me as financially irresponsible and manipulative. They had submitted falsified documents, fabricated testimonies, and misrepresented my financial history. My parents had created a false narrative where they were just trying to protect Emily, who was vulnerable. It was disgusting. I decided to fight fire with fire, to expose their lies with the cold, hard truth. I needed evidence, irrefutable proof of their deceit. I started by meticulously gathering every financial record I could find: bank statements, tax returns, receipts, anything that could corroborate my story. I organized them chronologically, highlighting any discrepancies or inconsistencies that might support my case. My parents had gotten sloppy. They had underestimated me. Hidden amongst the mundane transactions and everyday expenses were subtle hints of their scheme. Large sums of money transferred to offshore accounts, unexplained withdrawals, and suspicious payments to individuals I didn't recognize. It was a treasure trove of incriminating evidence, a roadmap to their treachery. But gathering the evidence was only half the battle. I needed to present it in a way that would be compelling and convincing, that would cut through their lies and expose their true motives. I reached out to a forensic accountant, a sharp, meticulous woman named Maria, who specialized in unraveling complex financial schemes. I presented her with my findings, and she immediately recognized the significance of the evidence. "They've been planning this for a long time," she said, her eyes narrowed with concern. "This is a sophisticated operation, but they've made mistakes. We can use those mistakes against them." Together, we spent weeks analyzing the financial records, tracing the flow of money, and uncovering the hidden connections. Maria was a master of her craft, able to dissect complex financial transactions with ease. She created detailed reports, charts, and graphs that visually demonstrated the extent of my parents' deceit. She didn't know this, but I started to record our conversations. I had to protect myself. The more I dug, the more I realized that this wasn't just about the house. It was about control, about maintaining their image, about ensuring that Emily remained dependent on them. They had always viewed me as a threat, an obstacle to their carefully constructed plan. By discrediting me, by stripping me of my assets, they could ensure that Emily would always be the center of their attention. I started to investigate my parents' past, digging into their business dealings, their personal relationships, and their family history. I uncovered a pattern of manipulation, deceit, and control that stretched back decades. They had always used their wealth and influence to get what they wanted, regardless of the consequences. I knew that exposing their past would be risky, but I was willing to do whatever it took to protect myself. I installed security cameras throughout my house, hidden in plain sight, disguised as everyday objects. I wanted to document their every move, to capture their conversations, to record their interactions. I knew that they would try to intimidate me, to harass me, to force me to back down, but I was ready for them. I spent hours studying self-defense techniques, learning how to protect myself physically and emotionally. I refused to be a victim. I would not let them break me. The legal battle was escalating, becoming increasingly acrimonious and personal. My parents were relentless, launching a series of personal attacks against me, attempting to damage my reputation and undermine my credibility. They spread rumors about my mental health, accused me of being a spendthrift, and even tried to involve my employer in the dispute. It was a coordinated campaign of harassment designed to wear me down and force me to surrender. One afternoon, as I was leaving my office, I noticed a strange car parked across the street. The driver was watching me intently, his face hidden behind dark sunglasses. I felt a chill run down my spine. I knew that they were watching me. I varied my route home each day, taking different streets, avoiding predictable patterns. I installed a security system in my car, complete with GPS tracking and a panic button. I refused to live in fear, but I also refused to be naive. I was prepared for anything. The closer I got to exposing their lies, the more desperate they became. They started making veiled threats, hinting at the consequences if I didn't drop the lawsuit. They called me late at night, their voices slurred with anger and resentment. They sent me anonymous letters filled with hateful messages and disturbing images. It was psychological warfare designed to terrorize me and break my spirit. One evening, as I was reviewing the security footage from my house, I noticed something that made my heart stop. My parents were inside, rummaging through my personal belongings, searching for something. I watched in horror as they rifled through my drawers, my cabinets, my computer files. They were looking for evidence, anything that could incriminate them or undermine my case. I felt violated, exposed, utterly vulnerable. I immediately called the police, reporting the break-in and providing them with the security footage. The police arrived within minutes, but my parents were already gone. They had managed to escape before they could be apprehended. The police promised to investigate, but I knew that they wouldn't be able to do much. My parents were wealthy and powerful, and they had connections in all the right places. I realized that I was on my own. I couldn't rely on anyone else to protect me. I had to take matters into my own hands. The break-in was the final straw. Any lingering doubt I had about their ruthlessness vanished. I knew then I couldn't just defend myself. I had to dismantle their entire operation. Reviewing the security footage again, something clicked. It wasn't what they took, it was what they didn't take. My grandmother's antique music box. They'd always coveted it, especially Emily. It was worth a fortune, but more importantly, it contained something far more valuable: documents. Documents detailing my grandfather's shady dealings, the source of their initial wealth.
Tax evasion, bribery, all carefully hidden, waiting to be exposed. My parents had been desperately searching for it. This was their weakness. Their empire was built on a foundation of lies, and I had the blueprint. I smiled, a genuine smile this time. I knew exactly how to turn the tables. The music box was hidden in a secret compartment, one only I knew about. I carefully removed the documents and made digital copies, storing them on multiple encrypted drives. I then meticulously placed the originals back, ensuring the box looked untouched. The plan was simple: lure them into a false sense of security, let them think they had won, and then drop the hammer. I started acting erratically, missing meetings with Sarah, the lawyer, feigning despair, and letting rumors spread that I was considering a settlement. I even leaked false information about a potential buyer for the house, someone who would supposedly raze it to the ground and build a shopping mall. My parents took the bait immediately. Within days, Emily contacted me, her voice dripping with false sympathy. She suggested we meet, just the two of us, to talk things over. I agreed, choosing a secluded restaurant with poor cell service. Perfect. The meeting was agonizing. Emily laid on the guilt, accusing me of being selfish, of trying to ruin the family. I played the part of the broken victim, tears welling up in my eyes. I told her I was exhausted, that I couldn't fight anymore, that I was ready to give up. "Just give me the music box," she pleaded, her voice barely a whisper. "It means so much to Mother." I hesitated, pretending to consider her request. "All right," I said finally, "but I want this over, all of it." She agreed instantly, her eyes gleaming with triumph. We arranged to meet at the house the following day. I would hand over the music box, and she would sign a full and unconditional release, dropping the lawsuit and relinquishing all claims to the property. As Emily left, she had a strange smile on her face.
I knew she was calling my parents to celebrate. The next day dawned gray and ominous, mirroring my mood. I spent the morning preparing the house, setting up hidden cameras in every room, ensuring every microphone was perfectly positioned. I wanted to capture everything. I wanted a record of their confession, their downfall. Sarah tried to talk me out of it, warning me that it was too dangerous, that I should go to the authorities. I refused. This was my battle. It was time to face the darkness. As the hour approached, my heart pounded in my chest. I could hear their car pull into the driveway. I took a deep breath, plastered a fake smile on my face, and opened the door. My parents and Emily stood there, their faces a mixture of anticipation and smug satisfaction. They thought they had won. They were so very wrong. I invited them in, leading them to the living room, where the music box sat on a table, bathed in the soft glow of the morning light.
"Here it is," I said, my voice trembling slightly. "Just as you wanted." Emily reached for it eagerly, her fingers brushing against the polished wood. My parents watched, their eyes filled with a predatory gleam. "Sign the release," I said, pushing the documents towards Emily. She hesitated for a moment, then grabbed a pen and scribbled her signature. My mother quickly signed as well. My father moved to sign, but then paused. "We're not fools, Victoria. Where are the copies?" I smiled. "Copies?" I said. "Oh, you mean these?" I gestured to my phone, which was connected to the house's sound system. The sound filled the room. It was my forensic accountant, Maria. "I've been planning this for a long time," she said, her eyes narrowed with concern. "This is a sophisticated operation, but they've made mistakes. We can use those mistakes against them." The entire room went silent. Their faces slowly turned white, then crimson. My mother began to scream. My father reached for me. At that exact moment, the police burst through the door. The sound of Maria's voice hung in the air, each word a hammer blow against their carefully constructed facade. My mother's scream was shrill, piercing, a sound of pure, unadulterated rage. My father, his face contorted with fury, lunged towards me, his hand raised. But he never reached me. The police, who had been waiting outside, burst through the door, their guns drawn. They wrestled him to the ground, handcuffing him as he roared with impotent rage. Emily stood frozen, her face a mask of disbelief, her eyes wide with terror. The room was a chaotic scene of flashing lights, shouting officers, and the sound of my mother's hysterical sobs. The evidence was overwhelming. The recordings of their conversations, the falsified documents, the testimony of Maria, the forensic accountant, it was all there, laid bare for everyone to see. They had no defense. As the police led my parents away, I watched their faces crumble, their carefully constructed world collapsing around them. They had spent their entire lives building their empire on lies and deceit, and now it was all coming crashing down. The lawsuit was immediately dismissed. I regained full ownership of the house, the property, everything they had tried to steal from me. But the legal victory was only the beginning. The authorities launched a full-scale investigation into my parents' finances, uncovering a web of tax evasion, fraud, and bribery that stretched back decades. Their business empire crumbled. Their assets were frozen. Their reputation was shattered. Emily, complicit in their scheme, faced charges as well. The music box and its contents were handed over as evidence, finally exposing my grandfather's crimes to the world. The news of my parents' arrest and the subsequent investigation sent shockwaves through our community. The once respected family was now a pariah, shunned by their friends and colleagues. Their carefully cultivated image of wealth and success was replaced by the stark reality of their criminal behavior. I watched it all unfold from a distance, a sense of cold satisfaction washing over me. They had tried to destroy me, to strip me of everything I held dear. Now, they were paying the price. The trial was a media circus. Every detail of their crimes was splashed across the headlines, their faces plastered on every news channel. They tried to plead ignorance, to claim that they were acting in my best interest, but the evidence was too damning. They were found guilty on all counts. My father received a lengthy prison sentence. My mother, due to her deteriorating health, was placed under house arrest. Emily, facing a reduced sentence for cooperating with the prosecution, was ostracized by society, her future uncertain. As the judge read out the verdict, I sat in the courtroom, my face expressionless. I felt no joy, no triumph, only a profound sense of emptiness. The revenge I had sought had been achieved, but it had come at a great cost. My family was in ruins. My life was forever changed. I walked out of the courtroom, the flashbulbs of the cameras blinding me. The world felt surreal, as if I were watching a movie of someone else's life. I returned to the house they had tried to steal from me, the house that had been the battleground for our war. I walked through the empty rooms, a sense of melancholy washing over me. It was over. They had lost everything. And me? I had survived. I sold the house, severing the last tie to my past. I started a new life, far away from the toxic environment that had almost consumed me. I focused on my career, on my friends, on building a future free from the shadows of my family's deceit. Revenge isn't sweet. It's necessary. It's a bitter pill that sometimes must be swallowed. It leaves a residue, a lingering taste of darkness that never fully disappears. But it can also be a catalyst for change, a force that propels you forward, towards a brighter future. They lost everything. I just smiled. Would you have done the same? Let me know in the comments. Subscribe for more justice.